Hey, what's up guys, it's Matt with Movement System. In this video, we're going to talk about program design for power. So the information from this video is going to come from the Essentials of Strength Training and Conditioning 4th edition textbook. We're going to talk about the principles of training power. We're going to talk about how we load power. And at the end of the video, if you stick around to the end, we're going to actually review a program that I wrote with the intention of improving power. Let's go ahead and dive into it. All right, so let's start off with a definition of what power is. So a power exercise is defined as a structural exercise that is performed quickly or explosively. So this is different than a strength-based exercise, which is typically really heavily loaded, but performed a little bit slower. So something like a 1 or a 2 rep max is more strength-based, where we're really heavy and we might be doing a 3 or 4 second concentric. Whereas a power exercise, we're gonna be loading less, but we're gonna be moving explosively and very quickly. One important principle to understand here is that when we decrease the load from 100% of 1 rep max to 90% of 1 rep max, we can actually double the power output. If we think about the equation for power, it's work divided by time. So if we can go from a 4 second concentric on a 1 rep max to a 1.5 or 2 second concentric on a movement that's loaded at 90% 1 rep max, we can roughly double the power output of that exercise. And you may be wondering, well, what if we lower the load even farther? So we go down to 80%, 70%, 50% of 1 rep max. And while we can actually peak power output as low as around 30% 1 rep max for a lot of different movements, it's often not practical from a resistance training perspective with typical resistance training equipment. So while, for example, loaded jump squats or med ball throws or powerful step-ups can be loaded around 30% of 1 rep max to maximize power, other exercises like barbell back squat and Olympic lifts can't practically be loaded at 30% 1 rep max because the bar velocity is just too high and we can't accelerate through the end of the movement. If you do have special equipment that allows you to throw the bar and actually extend beyond the end of the movement, then you can do some of those movements like bench press at 30% 1 rep max. But for traditional weight training equipment, we're going to typically load those exercises closer to 75 to 80% 1 rep max. All right, so when we're deciding how to assign load, let's take a look at table 17.7. So in this table, what you can see is a relationship between the percent 1 rep max and the number of repetitions that you could do with that weight. So for example, at 87% of 1 rep max, your athlete would max out around 5 reps. But it's important to know that that 5th rep is going to be a slow grinding rep. So this would be more programming for strength. If you're doing, for example, 3 sets of 5 at 87% of 1 rep max, know that that's going to be a strength-based exercise, and that's probably towards the end closer to a deload because we're really loading that athlete heavy. By contrast, when we're training for power for 5 reps, we're actually going to use closer to a 10 rep max load. But what we're going to do is we're going to do 5 explosive and quick repetitions with that 10 rep max load. And it doesn't have to be exactly a 10 rep max load. There's going to be some variation in that, especially as you go from week 1 to week 2 to week 3. But we just want to know that we're not maximally loading what the athlete can do. We're actually going to load a little bit below that and allow for explosive concentric muscle action. All right, so now looking at table 17.1, we can make a little bit more sense of the distinction here between strength and power. So first, let's clarify what a single effort versus a multiple effort event is. So a single effort event would be something like shot put, Olympic lifting, discus, javelin, something where we're maximizing one quick effort and then we're going to rest. By contrast, a multiple effort power event would be something like volleyball, where we're doing a lot of repetitions of vertical jump, or American football, where you're going to do a lot of repetitions of contact with another player. Those multiple effort events, we're going to typically train with a little bit higher reps of power, whereas our single effort events, we're going to typically keep them a little bit lower. So now what you can see whenever you're comparing the multiple effort power programming to the strength programming is that there's actually a lot of overlap there. A multiple effort power athlete trying to improve their vertical jump, for example, might do similar programming to an athlete trying to improve strength. But the load is what's going to be the distinguishing factor. So from a set and rep perspective, both a strength and a multiple effort power athlete might be doing something like 4 sets of 4. Those would fit in both paradigms, but for strength, we're going to be typically loading very heavy here. So you might see that athlete do 4 sets of 4 at 87% or 88% of 1 rep max, whereas the power athlete doing 4 sets of 4 might be loading that at closer to an 8 rep max load. So looking back to table 17.7, we can see that 8 rep max load is closer to 80% 1 rep max. So both athletes, one training strength and one training power, could be having 4 sets of 4 on their program, but for power, we might be doing that around 80% 1 rep max. For strength, that might be loaded at 87% 1 rep max. And you can actually imagine the difference of what those athletes would look like. Our volleyball player who's trying to be explosive and focus on improving their power for vertical jump is going to be doing 4 quick explosive reps, whereas our strength athlete who's in a strength phase, maybe a lacrosse player or something like that, who's really focused on force output, is going to be doing 4 slow grinding reps. But they might be doing the exact same number of sets and reps, with that distinction just being at load and bar speed. All right, before we get into breaking down this power program, I did want to mention if you are visual learners and you're studying for the CSCS exam and you're getting benefit from videos like this, chances are you would like my other study resources. So you can check out my 2 study resources on themovementsystem.com. One is a full study course which has in-depth study videos just like this, breaking down topic by topic and helping you as you go through the book. It's designed to be used in addition to the book as an extra study resource. If you can handle about 20 hours of videos of me teaching you like this and 200 practice questions, program examples, exercise technique videos, and stuff like that, then chances are you'd like the study course, so go ahead and check that out. And maybe if you're just a week or 2 away from the exam, you can check out my 140 question practice test. One of the big benefits of the practice test is it has a full answer key and an explanation for each answer, so that way you know exactly where you made mistakes and you don't make those same mistakes on the exam. Those resources can be used together. If you have about 3 months to study, then you could sign up for the study course, go through those 200 quiz questions and work through that chapter by chapter. And then as you get to a week or 2 before the exam, you can check out the practice test. If you think either of those resources would be helpful for you, go ahead and check them out at themovementsystem.com. All right, so now let's go ahead and break down this shot put program. So what you can see in this program is that we're training for power and we're kind of in between that multi-effort and single effort activity. Shot put is a single effort, so we want to start to drop those reps down, but this is T1, so we're not quite in season yet. So you'll see some higher reps, some low reps. So what you can see here is that we have hang clean, bench press, and med ball overhead throw as our first 3 moves. Those are for 3 sets of 4, 4 sets of 2, and 4 sets of 3. For that first exercise, the hang clean, we're doing 3 sets of 4. We could theoretically load 4 reps at about 90% of 1 rep max, but we're actually going to load this around 80% 1 rep max, and again focus on that bar speed. For that bench press, we're doing 4 sets of 2, which is pretty classic for a single effort power-based athlete. And for this, we're going to load this around 90% of 1 rep max. An athlete could do, again, 4 reps at 90% 1 rep max, but we're just going to do 2 powerful explosive reps of that bench press. Moving down the program, we have med ball overhead throw for 4 sets of 3. We have glute ham developer for 3 sets of 6. Tricep press down and a shoulder shrug. Those are just 2 accessory movements, and we kept those at 3 sets of 8, 2 sets of 10. It's important to mention that this overall is a power program, but there are still accessory movements. So just because a program is power-based or power doesn't mean that every exercise will be power and every exercise will fit into the set and rep of the power range. And I did want to mention this is just a quick sample. We don't have week 2, week 3, week 4 here, but I would expect some progression scheme from week to week. For example, that hang clean, we could go from 3 sets of 4 to 3 sets of 3 to 4 sets of 2, and that's actually going to allow us to increase the load each week. So that's one way to progress where we're changing 2 variables. You could very well also just see the volume stay the same and then just increase from 80 to 81 to 82 to 84% 1 rep max each week, and that would be another way to progress. And then day 2 here, we can see that we're actually programmed for high pulls, incline bench press, med ball kneeling chest press, hip abduction, bicep curl, and shoulder shrug. Those exercises are going to be programmed actually the same 3 sets of 4, 4 sets of 2 as the first 2, with about the same load, in this case 75% of 1 rep max and 85% of 1 rep max, so about 5% less. And this is actually a strategic decision so that we have one heavier day, one moderate day, and we might even throw a day 3 in where we're either doing strength or hypertrophy work. So again, just because the program is power-based doesn't mean that every day and every set is power exercise. We might have 1 strength day and 2 power days in a power program. And then I also did want to mention that we would expect another block of training after this. So if this is our T1 block, we could expect an in-season block of training to follow, which is probably going to be power-based as well and focus a little bit more on those single repetitions. So we may see 8 sets of 1, we may see 6 sets of 2, we may see 4 sets of 1, we may see 1 set of 4. Those are the set and rep schemes that you might see. And you may even see exercises that are a little bit more sport specific. So things like a push press or a push jerk, which are really specific to the movement pattern of shot put in that in-season program. Alright guys, I hope this video helped you understand program design for power. If it did, go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. You can also check me out on Instagram at The Movement System, or check out the Strength and Conditioning Study Group to learn more. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.